Stay tuned because next up is Village Properties Realtor and host of The Hop, that's Home Ownership Podcast, David Charles Allen, here to tell us about real estate in Santa Barbara.
Welcome to The Hop. This is David Charles Allen, Realtor at Village Properties in Santa Barbara, California, with my great friend and co-host, Patty Teal. How are you doing today, Patty?
I'm doing well, David. Thank you for asking.
I'm doing wonderful as well. We'll jump right into the weather in Santa Barbara. We have some really beautiful sunny skies. Higher 70s to mid upper 80s. This usually is the time of year we get a little bit of a hot spell first couple weeks of September.
Right. It's funny, right when kids go back to school.
Right. And then we do have a little bit of south swell as well, too. So if you want to travel a little bit down south, you could find some really good waves.
Sounds like a little bit of heaven.
And then in terms of how interest rates perform, not much has changed since last week. 4.75 for 30-year jumbo and 5.375 for 30-year conforming.
Is that exactly the same as last week, David?
That's exactly the same. Yeah.
Okay.
So no movement
right.
there. And then in terms of how the statistics have performed for the housing market, we had 33 new listings, 17 price changes, 41 that closed, 37 that went pending, 5 expired, and 4 that were coming soon. So again, really low number of new listings, and we jump back to having more pendings than new listings as well. So no buildup of the supply, but it stayed consistent. We were having about 17 price changes still as well. So homes that are desirable, like we've talked about many times, they're selling quickly. Homes that may not be as desirable are having to drop the price and staying on the market a little bit longer.
Right. It does look like a few more closed than there were new listings. So that's a little change.
Yeah, so it's definitely a little change. We're having a little bit of a supply buildup. It's really hard. There's always going to be people looking for houses and you're only getting 30 new choices per week. That's really not that much for such a large market. I mean, we have so many thousands of homes here and only have 30 a week is really, really low.
That does make it difficult for so many people.
A lot of people. And then you got to think if people are still trying to move here from out of town, that's taking up a big chunk of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it certainly makes it competitive for realtors trying to get listings, doesn't it?
That's right as well. That's correct.
Yeah.
Any thoughts for the day or questions for me?
Well, David, we've talked before about pocket listings. I don't think in recent weeks, but sometimes you've said there was a number of pocket listings. And is it individual real estate agents or brokers who get those pocket listings? Or if it's with a broker, is it with their entire agency? Is it good to work with someone that has pocket listings? I imagine it'd be a good way for a buyer to find a house. What are your thoughts about that?
So it's definitely very interesting. I think we've talked about it before, how they changed the ruling on if you have a pocket listing, so to say, then you have to only share it within your own brokerage. And if you share it outside your brokerage, you have to bring it on the market within a certain period of time, or you're susceptible to fines or something like that. So it kind of limits you to working with similar brokerages that are larger if you're looking for pocket listings, because if you're working with an individual broker who represents himself, he has his own company, he's not going to have access to any of those pocket listings most of the time unless other companies want to share it with him. Mm-hmm. So I think that whole rule, they try to make it dependent on fair housing, like everyone should have a shot at a house that by bringing it to market, and you're not discriminating against anyone by selling it off market as a pocket. Mm-hmm. But I think it was more brought on by these larger brokerages that have more agents because it keeps everything in-house and they get more money. So that's my conspiracy about that. But I don't know how true it is. But it limits you to who you can sell your house to if you want to keep it as a pocket listing. And there's really a lot of great benefits to keeping it as a pocket listing. If you want to keep privacy and all these other factors that play into it that is different than going to market, you can do that. Or if you want to try and go for a really high price at first, but you don't want to spend days on market if it doesn't sell, you can kind of test the waters as pocket listing. So there's a lot of attributes to that. But if you're having a pocket listing, you can only share it within your brokerage in accordance to the rules. So it makes it difficult to properly market a pocket listing unless you work at a brokerage that has a lot of agents.
Well, thank you for explaining that. I really was not familiar with exactly how that works.
Yeah. And the downside of it too is if you're working with a buyer or you're working with buyers and you've worked with them for some time and they happen to go to an open house that an agent's hosting from a different company and they're like, hey, I know this pocket listing. If you work with me, you have access to it. So it could kind of cut you out too. You've spent all this time with somebody, maybe you've been working them for 3 or 4 months and you've really did a lot for them and got them to the point where they are. And then for have someone just cut you out because you don't have access to that listing because it's at a different brokerage. So it's become way more devious in my eyes about the rules they implemented and not having it open market, even if it's pocket listing. So it's tricky.
It is tricky. Well, thanks for explaining it again. So how are those fur babies at home?
Everyone's doing really well. Bailey's laying, sleeping right now. All the other dogs are really good. Mango, he's not here today, which is awkward. He's been meowing the last couple of times. So it's nice to have a little reprieve from that.
So where did he go? You just wandered or you don't know?
He's indoor, outdoor. So he just goes and he wanders the neighborhoods and he just does his own thing and comes back whenever he wants to.
Yeah. You know, in the area that I'm in, there are a lot of feral cats and people put cat food out for them, which is a little annoying for me. I'm glad they do it just because my dogs see it and they go for it. And there are really a lot of them. I think the only problem that they have is, of course, the unwanted litters that get born and keeping control of it. I know they have catch and release programs where they get them and have a little surgery on them and then put them out. So I think Santa Barbara might do that too, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know cats really love just being outside and some of them want to just be independent and do their own thing. So
they do have a nature to be very independent, don't they?
Yeah, and keeping them inside after they've been outside for so long, they'll hate it or maybe they'll love it. It's hard to really know.
But I know Mango's not a wild cat. I mean, my grandparents had feral cats at their farm, and I remember how very, very wild they were. They were very, very skittish and not too likely to approach people.
Yeah, they do their own thing and they'll be watching you, but you'll have no idea where they are.
Exactly. Oh, well, I'm glad everybody's doing well. The guys here are doing well too. So thank you so much for all your interesting information on the real estate in Santa Barbara.
All right, you're welcome. Let's give it a go next week.
Okay, take care.
Thanks, Patty.
Bye-bye.